The reality is that betrayal is devastating. This crowd, I know I don't need to expand on that, but I'm going to anyway, just in case there's anyone listening who maybe doubts the effects of betrayal. Sometimes the one who did the betraying doesn't quite get it. And so I want to share a little bit about that when betrayal occurs in a relationship, it is as if a structure has been demolished. The rubble remains, but the structure is no longer sound. It's no longer functional. What betrayal does is it takes the storyline of what one person thought they've been living, even if it wasn't all good. This is my reality. This is what I've been living. It knocks that down. The individual pieces of what you saw in the structure, right, will be in the rubble. They're also going to see things that aren't seen until they're in the rubble, things that aren't seen when the house is standing upright. There's things on the inside, things between the walls that they're not aware of. But once that structure comes down and it's all mixed up together, it damages the foundation. Can I rebuild here? Can I trust this place, this foundation, this site? Can something come from this rubble, this mess? That's what happens with betrayal. I want you to think about that. If you're the one who had the hidden betrayal, I want you to consider how maybe you're the one that knew what was between the walls. You were the one that knew the problems that were there. You were the one that knew the things that were holding it together, unknown to your partner. And then all of a sudden, when this discovery happens, it's devastating for the both of you, but it's only truly shocking to one of you. I mean, yeah, you may have an initial moment of being shocked that you're caught, but the shock of, I can't believe this was my life, that's only one of you. And you may be thinking, man, why are we sitting on this? Why are we? It's because to understand post-traumatic growth, you have to start with the trauma. You can't have post-traumatic growth without trauma. What does betrayal destroy? Looking at it a little bit more clinically, moving away from our metaphor of the building now, it destroys the deceived partner's history. I've talked about this extensively in other presentations, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just in case you haven't heard me talk about this before, there's actually a part of the brain that is affected by betrayal trauma in a way that other types of trauma don't affect the brain, and that is the hippocampus. Most of the time when trauma occurs, one of the symptoms is this effort to avoid thinking about the trauma. More often than not with betrayal trauma, what happens is, but you were aware, but what? Wait, tell me again, but how did that? And going over it and over it and over it. And it's this part of the brain, the hippocampus, that is in this forced, what we call a hippocampal review. Why? Because the hippocampus's job is to file all my memories and put them in an order, create a sequence so that I have this autobiography. Why is that important? Because the brain's number one job is to keep me safe and alive. And the best way to predict a future threat is to understand past threat. And so if my entire autobiography has just crumbled, if it's been shattered, suddenly that storyline that I thought I had a pretty good grip on, I now realize I had no clue. The brain enters then into a primal safety seeking response of trying to understand what that storyline has been. I have to know what my story has been so that I can begin to navigate my feelings from this point forward. The deceptive partner's protective strategy has been destroyed. You know, I thought about this wording pretty carefully because I can see a partner who's been betrayed going, that's their protective strategy. That didn't protect them. That hurt them and me. And you're right, but it's a deceptive protective strategy. It's even self-deceptive. Usually, not all the time, and this is not an excuse. It's a reason, not an excuse. And I do think that there's a big difference. Usually, what I see is that the people who have these massive, second lives, these hidden lives, they learn to begin keeping secrets in childhood. And in childhood, it might have worked for them. I'm going to not share this. I'm going to keep this part of my life separate from that part of my life. If I tell my parents about my success at school, they're shaming toward me. So I don't want them to steal the joy I'm having at school. And so there we go. I'm going to keep these parts of my life separate. Oh, my parents tease me about having a girlfriend. So now I've got this girlfriend, but I'm not going to tell them about it. It works. It's a learned defense. Well, then it goes from being adaptive in childhood to maladaptive in adulthood. And once they're exposed, their protective strategy that they have built their life on has crumbled. And so there is destruction there. I'm not saying it's as traumatic or devastating. I'm not trying to make that comparison, but it is a reality. Oh my gosh, this is gone. This thing that maybe even non-consciously I was utilizing to protect myself, this compartmentalization, this separation of my life into multiple different streams, is gone. Or they try to keep it going, and that's where the trickle disclosures come in and all that kind of stuff. What else is gone? Well, what else is gone is the couple's shared story, which is to say the common basis for identity and purpose as a couple. So as a couple, what is it that you're operating on? What's holding you together? Well, it's a sense of purpose. I'm not saying it's a good purpose, but I guarantee you in any relationship, that relationship has a purpose. The purpose may be just to save money and not be lonely, but there's a purpose there. And that purpose emerges from the shared story. What have we done? What's our common history? Because that history that we have, these events, these initial ways that we experience one another, we're going to come up with an identity of us. Who are we? We are a couple who fill in the blank. And you can fill that in with activities, with behaviors, with interests, shared passions that comes from that experience of being together, how we met, what we did, how that relationship evolved. So what happens now is when that storyline, which wasn't completely shared because one person was hiding it and not bringing these parts of themselves into that shared story, and the other person was being deceived, it was being withheld from them. When that storyline then crumbles, now there's a crisis of identity for the couple, for the relationship itself. And so they're going to have to rework and recreate a story now. So in sum, what's the sum effect of these things? Well, safety, trust, affection, all of these are destroyed. All of these are damaged at the very least, if not destroyed, as a result of the betrayal. Hey, Dr. Jake here. I just want to say, if you've enjoyed this content, you might find yourself helped by my brand new program, the Choose Connection Academy. Years in the making, what I've finally done is I've taught through my entire couple-centered recovery model and created an online coaching program for couples to be able to work with me and move through this process of healing and recovery together. It is broken into different levels based on where you are in your journey. It includes video teaching that you can access at any time, exercises for you to do as a couple, community of others moving through this same material, access to live group coaching calls with me every single week, as well as a number of other bonus resources and opportunities for you. Just take a look at the link down in the comments below. We'd love to have you book a call to be a part of the Choose Connection Academy.